And hello and welcome to episode 7 of the World Map Podcast. One of your hosts, Josh, and joining me as always is Clark,
That's
who
me.
who just jumped into the frame there in a very
Whoa.
that was very agile of you, kind of like you're sort of like a star fox or something.
Indeed. Those of you in the audio can just imagine it.
We should have gotten puppets of ourselves this week and just done the whole show as puppetry. But we'll get to that. Also joining us yet again from his command center in the middle of a mountain villain hideout somewhere is Nick,
Hello.
who's nodded and very quietly said hello. Yeah, so So why don't we just jump right into it and talk about what we've been playing this week, because I'm excited to get on to some E3 news as well. But let's see what we've been gaming.
Right. I guess I'll say it real quick. I've yet again been playing a bit of Smash Bros. I figured I'd play the best thing to not be mentioned at E3. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I played online actually with Nick, and he kept beating me with a stupid custom character. It was very infuriating, but
He's a legend.
Who's that?
Statches.
Statches? How's that
hairline
even a
of warrior.
thing?
That's the name. The hairline of a warrior, the smile of an angel. Clark.
I'm not familiar with this Smash Bros. Character.
Tell you what we'll do is we'll create a QR code of the character. That way, if any of the viewers who have Smash want to try him out, they can just go to the website and take a picture of the QR code.
Is this like a custom like me type character
Yeah.
that you can create?
It's
Yeah.
a custom character.
I want to bring it up. Meta Knight was S tier. This guy's double S tier. You don't lose.
How's that? So that seems a little unfair.
Oh,
So much for even teams, I guess.
yes, indeed.
You were just training to try and get your level 9 challenges complete, right? You had to train to get someone a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But sadly, the challenges I got left, you can't use customizations, so I don't know how that works out using
Well,
a custom character.
Perhaps even sadder, it looks like you were also playing We Fit You.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
And I use the term playing lightly there.
well, basically, the wife, she ended up finding a used balance board for really cheap, and we had a copy of the demo already on the Wii U because they just Nintendo learned the internet and pushed it out to everybody about a year ago. And it turns out you get the whole game for free if you buy a Wii Fit meter, and so she bought a couple of these for like $5 each or so.
I did not even know those exist.
Yeah, they're just basically pedometers, but it's kind of really cool because it also can tell what your elevation is. Like there's an altimeter in there or something, I don't know. And so half the time I'm just looking to see what my elevation is, and it's funny because it could tell whether you're going up an elevator or actually walking up. And so I've been just trying to trick it by walking really slowly so that it goes up at a constant rate instead of the bounce that comes with steps. But I've yet to best the system.
So do how does one what do you do with the balance board and Wii Fit You? I mean, I saw the original Wii Fit on the old Wii. I saw one person I knew had a balance board. I don't think they actually ever used it like they thought they would, and then they didn't. So I know that it like used to yell at people and tell them they were too fat to get off or something. That's like pretty much the only thing I know about Wii Fit.
Well,
So what's this new evolution, I guess, like?
they're more sensitive now. They don't tell you you're fat. They say you could do a better job of managing your BMI.
Right, okay.
But basically, the new evolution is it's exactly the same game. Except that now you can connect this to it, the Wii Fit You meter. But no, actually, Nick's gonna laugh at me on this one. But basically, the only thing I've really done on it is try to beat my score with the hula hoop
Hula
mini
hoops.
game because that was actually one of the mini games that you played in the 2010 Wii Summer Games competition. There was like one event where you play that on Wii Fit for some reason, and so even though it's probably the dumbest game on there for anyone to ever play, it actually is kind of fun because it's ridiculous whenever you actually play Wii Fit in a competitive manner. And so I was like, maybe I can beat my old score, and I did not because I'm
Well,
5 years older.
I feel like nothing Nintendo ever comes out with that you stand on to play is gonna beat the old NES track and field pad.
Yeah, it's actually it's kind of like that. I mean, except really sensitive. And there's an old Wii game called what was it? I'll have to look at the shelf here real quick. Punch Out for the Wii, where you can do the whole punching thing, but actually if you have the balance board, you can kind of dodge by standing on it too. It's not very reliable in that game, but it's also the woggle controls and stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Yes, hardcore gaming.
Wow, yeah. It's funny. It's been a weird week for me too, kind of slow in terms of gaming. I think I spent like most of my free time actually like watching some things on TV and uh, also like just watching all of the E3 press conferences and things took up some of the time I normally would have been gaming. But
Right.
I too have been doing some very hardcore gaming on my iPhone,
Oh,
and I mean it just as sarcastically as you do.
well, there are buttons on there, like two.
Well, yeah. Although this has all been on touchscreen, but so there's this game. I was actually into the like 8 ball game that's really popular on iOS that's developed by put out by Miniclip, and I sort of got one of those ads that like recommends their other games to you, and I got an ad for Soccer Stars. So I downloaded Soccer Stars because I had one of the old FIFA games on my old iPhone, and even though I never really play those types of games on console, they're kind of fun to like kill a few minutes with. Sometimes when you just like have your phone and you're somewhere like wasting time or like bored, need to pass a few minutes. So I was like, oh okay, I could use a free soccer game on my iPhone. Fine. I downloaded it. It is not really a soccer game. It's called Soccer Stars, but to be honest with you, it's more of air hockey on a soccer field.
Mm,
So you have your little sliders. I think you have five sliders on the like they look like little hockey pucks kind of on the board, and each team has five. So you have five kind of men or whatever. You can customize and unlock different symbols that go on them, but they just kind of look like little bottle caps or something. And so the soccer ball starts in the middle of the field, obviously, and so, of course, your goal is to get it into the opponent's goal, but you have to pull back on the little slider guys, and then as you pull your finger back, you can move your finger around in a circle to uh, adjust the velocity of this arrow that comes out of your puck. And so you're trying to use your sliders to bump the soccer ball into the opponent's goal. So it's kind of cool because there's like no out of bounds. It'll just bounce off the trajectory of the wall. It'll bounce off of your own players, bounce off of the enemy players or your opponent. Um, and anything that hits anything else, it has a pretty good little physics engine in there. So if you kick the ball into an opponent, it's going to knock their piece backwards a little bit as it bounces off and deflects. So you can get into all these kind of like cool, complex formations trying to score goals by bouncing the ball around and using geometry. It's really fun. A match takes like anywhere between 30 seconds. Most of the matches, until you get into some of the higher levels, you just have to score 2 goals. Um, and then I've had matches that take 5-10 minutes because like I'll be grouping all of my guys around my goal, trying to defend really hard, and they can't really penetrate me. I'm just kind of turtling in a way,
mm,
and then eventually I'll just take one guy to try and move around and attack with. So you can kind of delay a little bit if you get in a tough spot, and then try to force your way back out across the field. But anyways, Soccer Stars has been kind of like my time waster recently, and I actually recommend downloading it because it's free, and I think you'll become quickly addicted to it if you try it. The other iOS game I've been playing is one that was actually an E3 kind of related announcement, which is Fallout Shelter. And Bethesda announced that they put out this free iOS game, just kind of as part of the marketing promotion around Fallout 4 coming out soon and being announced at E3. Fallout Shelter's a lot. I don't know if you've played Tiny Death Star or any of those games where you're just kind of, building rooms on top of rooms and assigning little people to the rooms based on, if they're really good at one attribute or another. You may want them in the kitchen preparing food, or you may want them down in the water treatment plant, depending on what their stats say they're suited for. It's a lot like that, but it's actually a little bit more fun and a little better because it kind of has this like sim tower aspect to it, where you have a little more flexibility in how you build things. Things are a little more interesting. And then there's this added layer that's pretty cool. You can actually send dwellers out of the vault to go out and explore the wasteland, and then you get to choose, like, if they encounter an enemy, they take some hits, and you say, okay, do they have enough HP to stay out a little longer, or do I want to not take that gamble and I want to bring them back before they die and like recall them back to the Fallout Shelter, back to the vault. And the longer they're out there, the more weapons and armor and things they can find and gather. So eventually you can send more and more people out exploring and just bring back all these resources to grow your Fallout Shelter. So it's again another game where you play for 10 minutes and you kind of run out of things to do while you're waiting on cooldowns and things like that, and then you'll open it back up later. But I don't know, I've had quite a bit of fun with it.
Sounds like it might be something interesting. I need something to play while I'm on my lunch break.
I don't have an iOS phone.
Yeah, so what else on the Wii U? It looks like you've been playing some other stuff too.
Me? Yeah, a little bit of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. For those of you who played Super Mario 3D World, there's a little Captain Toad minigame in it, and this game is pretty much that, but a lot of them in terms of levels. So yeah, just basically a game based on that little minigame, which I think was a smart idea because it was a really fun minigame, and it's probably the minigame in that game I played the most. You're basically just, a toad, Captain Toad, tracking treasure with this nice, soft, sweet toad voice. And you're basically, it's like this, you can't jump or anything, but you have to figure out how to get to certain places on this 3D map, and so you have to kind of spin the map around to look at it from different angles to figure out the best way of getting around it and navigate the level while dodging enemies and such as well. And it's kind of like a puzzle platformer with a little bit, with the puzzle being how do you get through all the platforms.
Yeah, I played Captain Toad actually on the Wii U demo that was set up at Target not too long ago. I was a little annoyed by the lack of jumping, but I guess you'll have that when it's Toad and not Mario. But it definitely seemed like a pretty solid kind of pseudo puzzle game.
Yeah.
It felt like it was a lot of fun. Do you find that there's a lot of content in that game, or is it something that you would like kind of plow through quickly?
Like, the levels are all pretty quick. It starts out, when I first started it seemed like I'd be plowing through really quickly, but there are a lot of levels, and they do get a lot harder as you go along. So, it's like one thing Nintendo is good at, not their online, but level design itself, and, so it builds up incrementally, and then later on, the levels you'll have to, incorporate things you learned in previous levels, and has a very low learning curve, but it takes a while to actually, master all the levels. And particularly me, because I'm kind of a completionist, I like to get everything in the level and beat it perfectly and get the highest score. So I often find myself going back in and restarting multiple times just so I can get the perfect run through. So it's something that it's easy to pick up and play. It feels a bit more substantial than an iOS game, and it's I'd say there for people who don't like platformers because making all the jumps is something that's too hard, or for people who like puzzle games, it's kind of a nice hybrid of the two, to where that kind of person would be quite comfortable.
Awesome, awesome. So,
Yeah.
so Nick, I'm very, very excited to hear you give us the scoop on Sunset Overdrive.
Oh, yeah. I still do not have an Xbox One, so I do not own that game. But I went over to a friend's house who was just dying to let me try it. And, I never really cared much for it. It just kind of looked like Jet Set Radio when I look at it, in the trailers. But I was pleasantly surprised. It does feel kind of like Jet Set Radio, where you're just kind of cruising around rollerblade kind of style. You're not on rollerblades in this town, though, but you can grind on everything. Just with your sneakers. You jump on a rail, and you can just grind. And you actually build up. It's kind of like a combo, but not a combo of killing. It's like a combo of tricks. Like, every car in the game is essentially a trampoline. It's you jump on them, and you can launch into the air. And then you can grind off every power line, every rail, every building, run on. Basically, it's a giant playground for grinding, like Tony Hawk, except without any technical skill. You just push the I think it's the X button, and you just grind everywhere. But that's just a small piece of it, because in this crazy world where apparently, if I get this correct, the soda company gave out the soda early to test in this town, and it ended up turning everybody into monsters of some kind, except for a select few, you being included, where you get these powers, and you're just all about getting the soda. But every one of the monsters is crazy for the soda, so it develops kind of like the game it's really hard to explain. It's a crazy game in general, but it's made by the same people as Ratchet and Clank. So I want to talk about some of the weapons in that launcher that just shoots teddy bears to just explode. And it's they're good for area effects, but I found it extremely fun just single units, just to watch them explode, massacre. And there's like acid sprinklers. You shoot out like a sprinkler that just like dumps acid all over an area. And while you're killing all these enemies that keep spawning, there's like robots sent from the Soda Corporation to kill you because you're not a monster. They don't want any survivors, so they want to murder you. So you got robots trying to kill you, all these monsters trying to kill you because the soda, and there's just like, I want to say aliens, but I didn't play it enough to actually know. But it's just they're everywhere, and so while you're doing tricks, you want to just like do as much mayhem as you can, just destroy every enemy. But while you're causing damage and blowing up cars, blowing up things, it also attracts more enemies, so there's just a ton coming. And another cool feature about it, you have these things they call them amps, that you can like customize your guy a little bit. And the more mayhem and combo you get from like grinding and tricks and killing, your amp meter builds up from like 0 to 4, and it unlocks a new power. Like there was one I was using where every time I would jump, if I would do like a melee attack, I would basically just punch the ground, create an area explosion, and shoot back up in the air so I can get my grind and combo. Your grind combo stops if you land on the ground without a trick. So it like encourages constant tricks. And some of the other powers include things such as every time you land on a car, it creates an area like explosion while launching you. You have like this dash that basically just rips through enemies. There's a lot of. I want to play it more. I can't. That's about as much as I can give you because it was kind of hectic. I can't go into detail about stuff. It's a bunch of crazy guns. It's a fun game. If you ever get an Xbox One, it's definitely worth playing.
So are there actual mission objectives or things that you're trying to do, or is it just kind of more open world, run around and get combos and kill things as much as possible, and it's more of a sandbox game, or?
Well, it's kind of both. You can kind of do both. I just ran around killing everything because I didn't want to get too invested in the hour I got to play it, because then I'd want to play it more and more. So I just ran around killing everything. But I'm told from my friend there are objectives. There is a story you go through, and the story is also filled with all kinds of random humor and breaking the fourth wall all the time. There's one because there's other humans in there that don't have powers, and they're trying to kill you too, just because I guess they're jealous of you. And one of them's like, "Man, I wish I could grind on everything like that." And one of the other guys is like, "Yeah, but you're not the main character." You know, and they're just like the fourth wall breaks like that all the time. And there's just a lot of humor. Yeah, there is a story. There are missions peppered about the town. There is a safe zone, like a mall, that's like a safety area. You got to kind of protect every now and then, but that's where you buy like new upgrades, new weapons, things like that. But it's definitely an entertaining game. Yeah, for an hour, I just kind of got lost in the sandbox of just killing everything, trying out all these different guns. Teddy launcher. There's this one that shoots like circular buzzsaws that just like keep circulating back, and you can re-catch them. You only hold 3 shots with it, but you can keep shooting it and keep like obtaining it. It's fun. When I get an Xbox One, probably when Halo 5 comes out, I'm probably gonna pick this one up as well.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and it'll probably be nice and cheap then too.
Okay.
So, anything else on your playlist this week, Nick?
Yeah, I also tried Kalimba when I was over at my buddy's house there. I've never heard of it before, but he just kind of told me, he's like, "You like platform puzzle kind of games? Those 2D platform puzzlers?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, this game's extremely hard." But, you know, I'm pretty good at them, so I kind of made his head turn a little bit there, because he's like, "Whoa, you're making this look easier than when I played it." Though it is hard. It's a really unique game, though. You control these 2 little totems, just these 2 little guys. They normally start out separated, and they're like, one's blue, one's green, red. There's just 2 colors of them. And when you move, they both move at the same time. When you jump, they both jump. And you got to like traverse a bunch of platforms to navigate the level. But they kind of trick it up a bit because there's these random walls that sometimes it'll be red or sometimes it'll be blue, and you got to try to figure out a way to separate them and have the proper color go through the proper part. And one of the cool mechanics of it, if you push the Y button, they actually switch places. So sometimes there's like a blue wall, and then there's a red wall immediately after it. So you got to walk through and then switch, and then continue walking and switch back to where they don't end up dying there. And there's like gravity altering things where you alter gravity and they're just kind of bouncing, and you got to like alter gravity back and have them go through parts, but then turn it back around before there's this black goo, and if you hit it, you die. So it's kind of one of them platforming puzzler games. It kind of reminded me of, you know, like electronic Superjoy style platforming. You know, you got to keep moving. Some of the levels you have to keep running through it with a hint of just puzzles, but you have to get them. You kind of got to pick some on the fly, or you're just gonna die. Like there's this one where you were falling down a pit, and you had to maneuver your guys and switch them constantly like that, real fast. Or I probably died like 20 times on that part. But it's a very unique game. If you like that style of platform puzzle type game that's kind of, you know, shows you a little mercy, but is also unforgiving, you will die a lot. And that plays into the end of the level too. You're basically creating this totem. Each level is a piece of the totem, and there's like 70 little orbs you pick up in the level to give you a total score of 70. But for every death, it subtracts 1. And you can't die more than 20 times in a level, or your totem just gets a block of wood. So it encourages, you know, perfect runs to get the perfect totem there. It's a very fun and unique game. I mean, I love that kind of game though. I'm pretty sure Clark would like it.
Sounds fun. The puzzle sounded almost a little like a very hard version of Thomas Was Alone.
Speaking of great puzzle games, yeah, that's a great one to bring up. Well, I guess it's about time then. I think this week we're going to kind of combine some segments, because I think what we're excited about is also going to be kind of our news topic of the week, because this past week E3 happened. We had some predictions and stuff last week, but I think we should just get right into just all of the announcements and everything, and this is our giant post E3 debrief here. So, man, last week I think we all sort of concurred that it was looking a little bit like Microsoft might be positioned well, despite their kind of lagging sales and the Xbox One not being um, the golden child of the gaming industry right now. I think we all felt that it was Microsoft's conference to win this year, that if they pulled out enough punches, they were doing enough things right lately since Phil Spencer took over. At the end of E3, Microsoft definitely didn't lose. That's for sure, right?
Oh,
No, definitely not. I did find it interesting. They had they seem to have a bit more announcements in terms of hardware. So I think Sony and they have done so much right with their hardware that they only had to focus on games. Whereas Microsoft, I'm not saying theirs is bad. They had a great conference. They had a lot to say about games, but they also had a lot to say about their Xbox One hardware too. So I thought that was a little different because normally they're announcing hardware or games in a similar way.
They did say a lot about the hardware, but I think the stark difference between this year and previous years under the sort of Xbox One regime was they weren't talking about hardware features that didn't relate to gaming.
Exactly.
They weren't talking about entertainment features. They announced, "Hey, guess what? We figured out backwards compatibility now, and you're going to be able to play Xbox 360 games, or at least." I think they made it sound a little better than it was. I think it's going to be select Xbox 360 hardware,
Right.
but certainly I think a lot of that XBLA download library and things are going to port over. That, to me, I never. There are so many new games. I never want to go back, but I think for a lot of people, that's a big announcement.
Yeah, like for me, backwards compatibility is huge because I tend to prefer playing older games to newer games, and then I'll end up playing a game every few years or so. So I thought that was a great announcement. That and I don't know how I feel about this specifically, at least what they showed, but it looked really cool and it makes me feel like I'm in Star Trek or something. But the HoloLens demo.
Oh my God, yeah. So not really on the VR hype train or the HoloLens hype train, which is not VR but AR, augmented reality,
Yeah, exactly.
where you're looking through something and seeing something in the physical space in front of you rather than having your entire vision surrounded by a screen. But I think maybe what they showed on stage for HoloLens is not exactly the technology that will end up coming to your living room from some of the things I've heard post show, but I totally agree with you that I was not at all sold on it. Obviously, I'm not a Minecraft player, but that using Minecraft as the demo for HoloLens and
Brilliant idea.
Yeah, they're just showing this world laid out on a table, and they can grab it and pull it up and all these different things, and I mean, it's straight up Star Trek holodeck, man, just on small scale. They're actually reaching out and manipulating things on a table that aren't there except for through the lens that they're viewing it in. It was really cool.
Something now. This is probably in one way the most boring use of HoloLens, but at the same time, I think it would be the coolest thing ever. Is basically holographic interactive online board games. Imagine you're playing chess, right? And you have the Kinect and the HoloLens on, and the other person has, the Kinect and HoloLens, and so you are playing, say, on a table in front of you, a holographic representation of a chessboard. And if you look a little further, you actually see the holographic representation of the guy you're playing online against in the same room. I think that would be pretty awesome.
I think what you're describing is the game that C-3PO and Chewbacca play on the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars.
Exactly. That's exactly right. They can make that game. Why not? Disney, get to it.
Yeah, and so we had HoloLens, we had some hardware announcements, but Microsoft brought it on the software front this year too. I mean, they opened strong with Halo 5. I think everybody's excited about that. One of the things that they reminded me of that I had kind of forgotten that's an announcement from a while back is that Rise of the Tomb Raider is going to be exclusive this year on Xbox One. So not only did I already want to buy one toward the holidays for Halo 5, but man, the Tomb Raider reboot was such a great game that I definitely want to play Rise of the Tomb Raider. So there's another reason to get an Xbox One. They managed to get Todd Howard from Bethesda out on stage and show off a little bit more Fallout 4, which is obviously not an exclusive. But they did have the announcement that PC mods will be coming to the console and
Yeah.
playable for Fallout 4. I think we found out after E3 dust had settled a little bit, those mods are also going to be coming to PS4. But Microsoft had the money and whatever they had to do to secure that announcement there, so that was kind of a big deal. Um, Gears 4 announced. I'm kind of like a halfway fan of the Gears of War series. I like some things that it does, and others I'm not such a big fan of. I actually liked Gears of War Judgment quite a bit, which was not one of the core three, but I liked some of the things with the optional story pathing that they did in that game. Multiplayer is always great in Gears,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Gears 4.
To say that the level that they demoed in Gears 4, they really could have chosen a better, brighter level. I know they have them in there.
And that's exactly why I wasn't like totally enthralled by it, is because it's like,
I personally couldn't tell what was going on in that demo. It just kind of looked like they were walking a somewhat linear path in a dark town, and then at the end, there's kind of an enemy right there. Right at the end, they show you something.
Yeah, it reminded me more of Gears 1 and 2, which I felt like I didn't enjoy as much as like Gears 3 was like really bright, and you had some of these lush like jungle environment type places you were in. Judgment was also a little more colorful, so I hope that like Gears 4 isn't trying to go back to the roots too much, because what they showed as the demo didn't excite me a ton. But still, it's another exclusive game that's coming out,
Something
relatively
much needed.
soon.
A game I'm really excited about that I saw at Microsoft's conference was that game Record.
Yes.
Record. That game looked really interesting. I don't know much about it, but just from the trailer, it kind of had this whimsical, somewhat cartoony, somewhat realistic kind of look to it. And the idea of recoring, I wonder how they're gonna use that in the world. From where his little buddy died, but then he put him in that giant robot at the end. I'm kind of curious to see what they have in there to recore. It looks like a very interesting, unique topic.
Yeah, it was a great trailer. Sometimes I hate when there's a cinematic trailer and we don't actually get to see any gameplay.
Yeah.
And with Microsoft, we get some of these announcements with cinematic trailers sometimes, and then the game never actually comes out. So I'm cautiously optimistic, though. I agree with you. Recore looks awesome just from what we saw. Even like you said, the concept that was conveyed through that trailer is really interesting. Plus, they've got the Metroid Prime team, former Metroid Prime team on that, and Keiji Inafune working on that. I almost feel like you can't go wrong with that game.
I don't know. I'm excited.
And so there was even more in terms of exclusive announcements, because obviously Xbox or Microsoft owns Rare, right? So we got this Rare Replay, 30 games for $30 announced.
It's a rare treat.
Right, yeah. So a lot of great games in that bundle. GoldenEye, not one of them.
Right. I think the licensing issues, I'm positive.
Well, yeah, and I think some reporters tried to nail them down on why it wasn't in there, and brought up the whole licensing thing that they faced previously, and yeah, they wouldn't quite cop to that being exactly it, but they used the line of, well, that wasn't a core world or a core character set that we dreamed up at Rare on our own, so we only wanted to include like what we felt were really like core Rare games.
Plus,
but let's be honest, the GoldenEye name has been tainted a little bit in some of the remakes that they've tried to do over the years.
Not only that, but hypothetically, if it were just not a reboot or something, but just an HD remaster of the old game, I don't think it would make good business sense to put it in there for that cheap. They could sell that on its own as a full game, and people would pay full price.
I also think the mechanics for an N64 type of shooter, a shooter that's designed for that controller, probably would feel very dated to us modern day. I don't know that we would have nearly as much fun with it as we think we would.
Interesting fact, you can play the N64 GoldenEye 64 with dual sticks. You just have to plug in two controllers.
The part about that is one stick is strafing and look up and down, and the other stick is walk forward and look left and right. So it's got the sticks are jumbled, so it's still terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
We did get a new game announcement though from Rare, and this was a little and disappointing to me, and a lot of folks on Twitter disagreed with me. But I was a little disappointed. You know, Rare's been like tucked away all this time. Like, what are they working on? And then they announced this game, Sea of Thieves, this kind of like cartoonish looking pirate game. I am not interested in that game. What about you guys?
I feel the same way. I was severely underwhelmed with that game. I'd actually forgot they announced that game until you brought it up. How much of an impact it made on me.
It wasn't very memorable. I mean, we got like some music, and as soon as the music started playing, I'm like, oh, a pirate game, great. Like we don't have enough of those. And then like there's this walking down a path for a little while, and it's like they wasted a lot of time doing nothing in that demo. And then we got into like ship battles, and I'm like, okay, well, ship battles are great, but AC4, you know, or whatever,
Exactly.
doing that, like we have games that we can go do that in if we want to do that, and it feels like a waste of Rare's talent to me.
I just know, yeah, I'm going to play Assassin's Creed 4 if I want ship battles, and if I want cartoon pirates, I'm going to play Wind Waker.
Good point, good point. So anything else on the Microsoft conference before we move on and talk about Sony, who was next up for the big three?
Nothing that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, all right. So before we declare a winner, let's give everybody equal treatment here. So let's talk about Sony. So I watched Microsoft's conference, right? And then was like pretty hyped about that. I went into that evening thinking there was no way Monday evening that Sony was going to be able to beat Microsoft, and I was like, that's fine. They've got the leading position in the market. They're doing a lot of things right. We know that they have games coming, later down the road, some good stuff planned, but probably Sony is going to be a little milder than they have been in previous years.
Yes.
So.
And oh my gosh, no.
Then the conference started, and was The Last Guardian the first game they showed?
The first thing they showed was The Last Guardian.
Which is funny because last week we mentioned that it's never going to be made.
Actually,
throw it out there.
Well, I do want to mention, I said I won't believe The Last Guardian's coming out until Final Fantasy VII gets remade.
I think you actually did say that. Yeah.
And we get both.
I just the little kid fanboy in me was like, when they showed Final Fantasy VII, man, I got a literal like tear forming in my eye because that is like such a formative game. I mean, that's one of the games that like is the reason that I've been a lifelong gamer, is because of games that had like such a great story and unique set of things to do in it as Final Fantasy VII. But
the funny thing was when they announced it, they were just, there was talking. They didn't mention anything about Final Fantasy. You didn't really hear any of the music yet. And I'm looking through and I'm thinking that looks familiar. Is that Sector 7? That's a Mako reactor right there.
Oh yeah, I was texting you and Nick throughout the whole Sony conference, and I don't remember which one of you, but I was like, Mako? That's Mako. That's a Mako reactor. And I was like, oh, it's on. Like, I know what
and I was like, is that Genova music?
I had a completely different feel for that, because I actually read a leak a couple days prior from a reliable gaming source that they're talking about remaking Final Fantasy VII. So I got stoked for it. I was like, they're going to show it. And they did bring out a Final Fantasy title, and I was like, this is it. This is going to be it. And then it's that World of Final Fantasy.
World of Final Fantasy, right.
My heart sunk. I was like, this sucks. And then the next one, I'm watching, I was like, wait, what is this? They mentioned we've been waiting for this. And I'm looking at it, and when I saw the sign on that highway, gate number 7, I was like, that's it, Sector 7. And then that's a Mako reactor. There it is. And I was, oh man. And then it just like brought chills, and I got real excited.
And then like when they showed Barrett's gun arm as they're walking by.
Yeah. No, I was sad it wasn't that iconic scene of him jumping off the train, but I'll deal with it. I'll settle with this.
I think we'll get a lot of iconic scenes, and I think we'll probably, I think we're in for a few surprises too.
Yeah, I do want to note though.
On the pyramid in HD.
Yeah.
Clark knows all about that pyramid wall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I do want to note though that with an interview later on, it's not going to be it's not necessarily going to be just straight up HD port. There are maybe going to be some changes in it because I forget the name of the guy, but the director he mentioned that they're also coming out with the HD port, of the PC version, and
Right,
if we're going to
right.
have a HD version and then a really pretty version, what's the point? So I am a little bit worried that they're going to change some things that I really like. As long as they leave the story the same and the settings the same, and maybe just tweak some things here and there that aren't as integral to that world, then I'll be okay with it. But I am a little concerned, like with what they did to, like you mentioned, GoldenEye when they remade that, how it was completely different. I just hope that that does not happen to this game.
I actually want to see, I think, a couple changes because I went back and played the original Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite games of all time.
Uh-huh.
But admittedly, there are a few things about it, like now after playing modern games, that
Mhm.
kind of, like the turn-based battle system. I like turn-based battles, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing them tweak the battle system a little bit,
Right.
add a
In
little
an
more
interview,
action in there somehow.
like the guy mentioned, from what I understand, they are keeping the core base. All the main story elements are going to be there. They're maybe going to add a little bit extra to fill in some of these gaps that have arisen over the
Yeah.
years with all these spin-offs.
That's what I was concerned about.
They did mention they are going to modify the battle system, but they're not going to destroy it. They do want to make it feel modern, but they don't want to ruin it. So they say they're working really delicately to get it just right. So they did already mention they will modify the battle system, and they will be adding extra story, but all of the game's original content and story should be in there.
So I want one other change other than the battle system. I want an option that keeps Eris alive.
I do not want that, even though she's one of my favorite characters.
Clark,
I think
Clark, you don't
that would
want that
be
because of me.
no. That's not.
Eris is always the best.
No, I don't want it because I think that would be a fundamental change in the story, in my opinion. Like it would change the motivation
Okay,
later
okay,
on.
wait. What if they add story afterwards where somehow she's resurrected, and
Well,
so
the
it
thing
keeps the original story intact, but you also get
Well,
to see
you
it.
can't really keep the original story intact, though, because Eris dying is kind of what brought them together to beat Sephiroth at the end. It kind of helped them along their journey, bringing her back.
You know what would have helped me beat Sephiroth is my
That
freaking
level 4 limit
healer.
break of Eris.
If I'd have had the fully leveled character that I spent the whole game leveling up.
I replayed that game just so I can get her level 4 limit break before she dies.
And
Because
that limit break is amazing.
Yeah, well, don't get too used to it. There, spoiler alert. So we kind of we got on to Final Fantasy VII, but
we should
Last
probably
Guardian,
go back to Last
Last
Guardian.
Guardian started the show. It's not the prettiest game. It's not what I expected graphically, to be honest.
But
And
the art style.
the demo started off like a little slow to me,
Mhm.
like a little. Yeah, it's just kind of like, come here, dog dragon thing, and like you're just kind of leading this thing around, and then he helps you like cross a bridge or whatever, and then the action picks up a little bit, and they're kind of like clawing their way up a tower that's falling and whatever. But
And then it ends.
I'm guessing that's like cinema scene though, and not gameplay. So I I'm glad the game's coming out. Still not coming out till next year, which is crazy. But I want to play it. I'm glad we got to see it, but the demo actually didn't sell me on it.
Well, I don't know. If you remember Ico or Eco, I never know how it's actually supposed to be pronounced. That also started out slow, and a bit of the game you were leading someone around, and like, hey, come here. So, in my opinion, the reason that the trailer was like that was maybe because they didn't actually announce that it was The Last Guardian until the end. I think they were just kind of saying, hey, this is the sequel to that game that you've been wanting, without actually explicitly stating it to the end. So I think maybe it was just that's why they did it that way, but I could be completely wrong.
I'm hoping for a little more trailers later on in the future, because I'm with Josh here. I was a little underwhelmed by it after waiting for it, because I personally, Shadow of Colossus was one of my favorite PS2 games. I loved it. I didn't get as much into Ico, but Shadow of Colossus it's the same general style, and I loved that game. And I was really looking forward to The Last Guardian, and this kind of, I'm not writing it off, of course. I'm just saying that what they showed, I'm kind of like Josh here. It didn't quite sell me, but I will be keeping my eye on it.
I will tell you that there was one person, anybody who watched the anybody who watched the
looked like he was gonna cry.
Yeah, there's a guy. It like panned around to the audience after the trailer. There's this guy standing there like with a tear in his eye and his hands on his head.
Well, that was probably me during Final Fantasy VII. So
yes.
Speaking, since we're on the Sony's conference actually had the game I am most looking forward to out of every game shown at E3, and that's Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we get this like female protagonist sneaking around. There's more like robot animal things, which was kind of like a theme throughout E3. I feel like this year, but it's like robot dinosaur. Like there are these dinosaurs, and you're like prehistoric, and you see these dinosaurs.
I thought it was a caveman game at first until I saw that it was a robot instead of a non-robot.
Right? Yeah. Like, oh, this is
like a caveman game. And then it shows about the old ones, and apparently the old ones are today's modern civilization. And so it's a really interesting idea, and it intrigued me. I'm curious to know what happened, what's going on in that game.
Well, and that's one in contrast to Microsoft showing a really cool cinematic trailer for something like ReCore. Horizon Zero Dawn, we saw like actual gameplay, and you're like rolling under these giant robot dinosaurs and dodging and shooting them with arrows and like electrifying them.
It's not just basic arrows. That's what got me. It's like electric arrows, like stunning them, and that gun that like locks them to the ground. That kind of wire gun to tie him down.
The gameplay looked almost like an open world Tomb Raider mixed with a Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I think that was probably my out of all the games that we didn't yet know about, and excluding like Halo 5 and all that stuff. Horizon Zero Dawn probably my game of E3. Also, Nick. Clark, what about you?
Yeah, I was extraordinarily excited about that when I watched it. I was just wanting to know more about it, but I couldn't find anything, and it was kind of sad. I was like, I wish it were out right now.
Yeah. So Sony also, they showed off No Man's Sky again, which last year was my game of E3. This year, very interesting demo, but another one that was kind of slow-paced, and I think that's the point of that game, is to have kind of that slow-paced exploration. They showed that you can kind of participate in some space battles and things too, but I'm starting to actually wonder if that game is going to be fully realized. Yeah, I feel like they're trying to do so much in that game that maybe no one thing is going to be all that compelling, but I'm hoping I'm wrong.
It's just an exploration game, or if there's actually purpose to it, or are you just going around planets exploring them? Can you build things? Can you actually make something on a planet? They showed things were destructible, but they didn't show you can create anything. And so I'm curious about that too. If it's just go around and explore, a big open exploration sandbox.
I'm also uncertain about, they talked about like you can land on a planet, and sometimes no one else in the whole like years that the game will be out will ever find that planet because they have used the engine to randomly generate so many. But I also wonder, like, if I want to find other people or go to planets other people are on, will I be able to?
Yeah.
Can the three of us fly our spaceships and like go exploring planets together? Could we create a civilization somewhere? Like that kind of thing. Are there going to be any missions or story elements or factions in the game? And so I don't think we know enough yet to pass judgment on it, but I'm starting to wonder if it's going to be as awesome as I thought it was going to be last year.
Here's what I was wondering about it. Sure, there's a lot of planets. It seems like there are a lot of individual little things you can do once you get to a planet or when you're in space, no matter where it is. But with how much stuff there seems to me there would be a lot of in-between time. What do you do in between doing the stuff that they showed you. You know,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
it seems like it'd be kind of, I don't know. I thought it looked kind of interesting, but at the same time, it looked kind of boring.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know.
So we also had a really, really weird announcement. The Shenmue 3 Kickstarter was debuted at the
Fully
Sony press
funded
conference.
by the way.
Yeah. There was no doubt that it was going to be funded. You know, it was almost funded before the end of E3. So, or before the end of the official conference, actually, I think it was. But like, I actually never played a Shenmue game. Is that bad?
Well,
Probably will play it. It's pretty good. I've got it for the Dreamcast.
yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. I liked the story. It was intriguing. The gameplay wasn't the most action-packed, but
It was like a life simulator / mystery game.
mystery murder, kind of like find the guys who did this. It was a very unique game, and for its time, it was one of the only ones like it. It was really
like
Is it anything like L.A. Noire? Or?
I didn't play L.A. Noire, so I don't know
So
that.
in L.A. Noire, there's a lot of like, you know, you're at the police station, somebody comes in, you interrogate them to get some information. You got to the crime scene, you actually pick up the evidence and like turn it around and look at it for clues.
it's similar to L.A. Noire then in that respect because this one some group has killed like your father or your family. It's been a long time since I played it, but you're kind of out to try to figure out who it is, and so you kind of follow this breadcrumb trail and you talk to people. Maybe they saw something. Maybe you kind of progress, but it's not in one central spot. You actually progress through these different areas.
Like I'd say it's almost like a precursor to an open world game too, because there were so many other things you could do. You can get a job, you can just talk with other townspeople and buy things, and
There's little
martial arts.
There's little Sonic
with people in the parking lot somewhere, and it's interesting because the original Shenmue the game takes place at some point in the 1980s in an area of Japan, and they actually were very detail-oriented in the creation of that world because the weather changes and such. But what they did was they took what the actual weather was like at that time in that area of the country to mimic it in this game as well. And so I don't know if they'll be doing something similar.
I'm really hoping for an updated fighting system too as well. I'm not sure if you remember the fighting system, Clark. How it was kind of a somewhat clunky, just mash a button to punch, mixed in with real-time events where like a dodge, you push a button. And it was really, I think that game invented real-time events. I don't know, but it wasn't a bad fighting system time. But if you were just to use something very similar to it, I don't think it would hold up today unless they did something unique and new with it.
I don't think the game is going to have mass appeal. I think it's just really going to appeal to the fans that played through the first couple and did not get to finish the story because it was an unfinished story.
$2 million to get it funded. Those people.
Well, that's the weird thing. It's like, hey, we're Sony, we're millions of dollars company, and here's a Kickstarter. It's like it just felt like the whole Kickstarter thing was a very carefully orchestrated kind of PR move.
What I was thinking is when they showed it, I knew for a fact, even if it didn't get funded, it's going to get made because Sony probably would fund the rest of it, and they're, you know. So I figure I don't know, it had to. It was a PR move. Maybe it says it's like, hey, look, we're going to put this on the Sony system, but, you know, we're still our own guys, not, you know, following what the corporate man is telling us and all this other stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah. One notable thing lacking from Sony's E3 press conference was any showing of Persona 5, which we know is coming soon to PS4. Probably a game better saved for like Tokyo Game Show for them.
Right.
It probably doesn't have the mass appeal here. I know all of us probably will be fans of Persona 5, but that wasn't there. And then also, you know, I was really kind of hoping for some like life to be pumped into the Vita with like something, I don't know, some really cool first party, like I really want an Infamous game on the Vita so bad is really what I want, but I guess it's looking like we're probably not getting any more of those on Vita at this point. We're gonna have to stick to JRPGs and indies, which is fine. still a great system, but I was a
Yeah.
little disappointed by that.
Which actually something else I just now remembered when you said Infamous, even though it's a completely different game series and completely different gameplay and everything. But Uncharted.
Yeah, so that's the last kind of big first-party exclusive that Sony showed off. They had a little trouble with the demo at first; it froze up on them. That kind of sucked for them that happened on live TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if they restarted or if they had like a video backup of their demo in case the live playthrough froze up. But that is a game that watching that all these other games, I was like, okay, yeah, seeing the gameplay is great, but I really want to play it for myself. Same thing with Uncharted, but Uncharted's a game like seeing that demo where I could just watch somebody else play it forever. Like it's that good, it's that
Yes.
cinematic. It just looks so
It's a
fluid
movie
in the
almost.
gameplay. Yeah,
Like the
it's
voice acting, everything.
it's indistinguishable from like an Indiana Jones film.
Exactly. I don't know. I thought that was amazing.
That's a game I'm really looking forward to. I've not played all of the Uncharted, but I did play some of 3, and I just, like you said, an Indiana Jones kind of feel. I was really excited when they showed it off.
And they don't do anything remarkable in terms of gameplay. In fact, they're kind of like linear and hand-holdy and a little easy, and they're like your average third-person cover-based shooter in a way to me. But
The
they
story,
do such a good job, yeah, of storytelling
Yeah.
like
and
the
setting up
last
the set.
Naughty Dog is great at the stories.
Yeah, it's just pure fun, and you play those games for that reason, as opposed to something that you play for like the challenge. Um, So another thing that Sony showed off that's not exclusive at their press conference, but I thought I'd bring it up is Star Wars. Uh,
Yes.
Infinity?
Disney Infinity, am I right?
oh my God! So I'm actually texting. I think I had my text window open with Nick, and they start playing the Star Wars music, and I'm like, yes, here it is. This is it. Finally, let me get to see more Star Wars. And they show the Disney Infinity 3.0 with Star Wars in it. And so, of course, Nick's making fun of me, like, oh, yeah, you really like Disney Infinity that much, huh? Like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, oh, come on, they're not going to show this and not show us Battlefront. They did finally pull out Battlefront, and we got to see some actual, like, gameplay
Wow.
footage of the combat in that game. Man, that is just, it's like being right inside of one of the movies. I mean,
I
as
actually,
a Star Wars fan, awesome. As a somebody who doesn't play a lot of shooters but enjoys a really good shooter, it just looks like a really good core shooter as well.
I'm not sure if they actually showed gameplay footage and instead just kind of showed us, clips from the new Star Wars movie coming out. Honestly,
It very
it
well
looks
could have
that
been.
good.
Yeah.
I think what they should have shown personally, because I got excited for it, but I'm sure you guys saw that 6 or so minute clip of like a Hoth battle where it's like transitioning between the Rebels and the Empire and just like TIE fighters, and I think they should have showed that because that really got the whole experience, everything going on. The one they showed on the floor there was amazing, looked beautiful, but it just kind of showed some of the gunplay, just a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I'm extremely excited for the game.
Yes. There's also actually an Arkham Knight trailer too. Just a little.
Yes, yeah. That was a little weird for me though because
Yeah.
I'm whatever weird gameplay they showed from that. I think you were not Batman, but you were like a cop or something. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what was happening there.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by it as well. I just,
And it
I
was
mean,
first person, so that was
yeah,
weird.
and
Up until
I mean,
when
I mean,
they said Scarecrow,
yeah,
and so what I got from it, I'm assuming the cop got like infected by Scarecrow, and now nobody in that place is actually messed up. He's just trying to kill people because he's like all jacked up from like Scarecrow like poison or something. But I don't know. But I don't think that wasn't a gameplay video at all. I don't think.
We also saw 2 other games that come to mind that look like they're going to be smaller titles at the Sony conference. One is by Media Molecule, which does Little Big Planet and Tearaway and things like that. A game called Dreams.
yeah. I don't know what to think about it. It's confusing, and I just have questions. So the guy demonstrating it was completely right with what kind of reaction I would have.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that one's we. There's yet more story that needs to be shown there, and then the other one was Firewatch, which I am very interested in playing Firewatch. That's the one where you're like going through the forest, and I guess you're like one of these park rangers or whatever that goes up in the Firewatch towers. But you've got like some woman talking to you on a radio and like kind of giving you advice as you're walking through the forest and things like that. I see like it reminded me of Portal, where like when you're walking around and you're being like spoken to and you don't really know whether you should trust the person on the other end or not. And I got that kind of vibe from it. And then at the end, it's like, oh, hey, who's in your tower if you're not in your tower? And you like look around and there's somebody up in the fire tower, and it kind of like ended on this cliffhanger with the demo that we saw. I'm a little intrigued. I think I want to play that game.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, we forgot to mention a game from Microsoft's conference, a small little title, Cuphead.
Oh man, I don't know how we forgot about Cuphead. Yeah.
I don't either, because I am excited for that game. That game, at first I didn't think it was a game, because it looked so much like a cartoon. It was so well done. But yeah, how do you guys feel about Cuphead?
Yeah, I definitely want to play Cuphead. I mean, it was like looking at it, it was almost indistinguishable to me, like who is the character I'm controlling on screen versus the enemies, because it all just looked like one really great, like seamless old time cartoon. And the art style alone is, even though it's not really like the type of like those bullet hell platformer games aren't like my favorite necessarily. I'm gonna play it just to enjoy that art style.
Mm. Yeah, I think of those two actually. I'm a little bit more interested in What was it? Firewatch?
Yeah.
Yeah, Firewatch. The title eluded me. I thought that was interesting because first off, that's not a setting, and that's not the type of character you usually play in games. You're not usually like a forest ranger, and so I thought that was kind of cool. Just out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So continuing this the big three E3 trend here, Nintendo released their Nintendo Direct the following day, and I didn't get to see it live, but I sat down after work and pulled it up on the big screen, and it starts off with Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé and Miyamoto as Muppets.
Which was very funny.
I was instantly in love with their Nintendo Direct presentation. I mean, it was just so Nintendo, so whimsical, so much fun. But at the end of the day, we can debate whether Microsoft or Sony won E3, but Nintendo did not win E3, despite having a really fun video they put out there.
Nintendo, though, in an argument with Nintendo, they did kind of blow their load before E3 even began with that Smash Bros. Direct and some of these other announcements. If they would have thrown that in there, I'm sure they would have done infinitely better. But they still had some good content and some lacking content. Like, of course, they didn't show Zelda, which they've announced they wanted to show games coming out this year, and they're going to focus more later on Zelda with its own Nintendo Direct. So I was a little sad to see that. But games like Star Fox, that looks pretty fun and intriguing to me. It doesn't look revolutionary, but I'm a Star Fox fan. I'm pretty excited to play it. How do you guys feel about that game?
I'm a little speechless because I haven't played Star Fox in so long. Like I guess I kind of it feels like Metroid at this point, or I've decided that there are other games that do that I'm gonna have to play, and like I guess I just don't care about Star Fox as much as I once did. Yeah, it looks fun. It looks good. I'm glad that there's going to be a Star Fox game, but it didn't, even though it didn't. Okay, so compare opening your show with either Halo 5, The Last Guardian, or Star Fox Zero. And I think after seeing the first two conferences and then seeing them open with this like kind of Star Fox game that looks like all the other Star Fox games, I was kind of like, okay, cool, what's next?
Yeah.
It was not as nice of an opening as Sony or Microsoft start.
Yeah.
Did not have that wow.
Like, I will say, last year I thought Nintendo's Direct was phenomenal. I actually liked it better than both Sony's and Microsoft's conferences. You start out with Smash Bros. You're doing something right. This year, it's Star Fox is nice. They had a great cartoon. I'd love them to make a kind of children's show for adults. That would be great. I'd watch it on TV every week, certainly with those puppets, and or on Netflix, what have you. And Star Fox does look fun. I think it's interesting, but I wasn't super wowed by it. And I think maybe one of the reasons why I wasn't as wowed by the Nintendo conference is, like, say for the Sony one, they showed The Last Guardian, then they show some other game. Well, they
Final
showed
Fantasy VII.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII. They just show game after game, and it was like, wow. In this one, they show, Star Fox and like a good 10 minutes or so of the history of how they decided to make it, and they show something else. And it was actually light on game content. And, so it wasn't just hitting me with one game after another. And so that's something that I think was...
Well, and I think one of the reasons, not only did Nintendo not have these big exclusive announcements that some of the other manufacturers had, but they were able to fill that extra space with third-party stuff. Sony had a big Call of Duty section.
Mhm.
Microsoft had that Fallout section. And Nintendo just pretended like third parties don't even exist because, I don't know, I guess maybe they're not supporting the Wii U that much anyway. But
Yeah.
they had to fill that gap with something, and I guess it was these little
Yeah.
vignettes in between
Although,
everything.
I must say, though, that if I'm not looking at it as like an E3 related thing, that's interesting information. I loved learning that stuff. But again, I was watching this for game announcements.
Hmm. I agree. I loved seeing the graph paper with the original Mario levels sketched
Yes.
on them that they showed off and things like that. Very cool.
Wait.
But I don't know. Could they have opened the show with anything other than a Wii U Zelda or a new Metroid game and been comparable to Sony or Microsoft? I feel like those are the only two things that could have put them up there on the same level.
Oh.
Like even a new like Mario game at this point, since we've had one recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
If
don't
they
think
opened with the new Earthbound, I think it would have had that kind of effect.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
think just throwing Zelda out front would have even put them with the other ones still. It would have made it significantly better, but they would have had to throw out more than just Zelda. Like Zelda,
Yeah.
Earthbound, and a new Metroid game that's not the one they announced.
Yes.
I can't believe, like, everybody saw right through that. I can't believe they announced this 3DS like weird multiplayer shooter and then they called it Metroid Prime somebody who gives a crap, whatever subtitle on it. Like
Federation Force.
nobody's, that's not what anybody wanted. It's like bringing attention to the fact that you haven't made a real Metroid game in years that anybody liked.
Now, aside from the fact that they were light on content and that Metroid title, which I don't think we need to talk too much more about unless we want to kind of, vent and rant some more. Some of the games themselves I actually am looking a bit forward to, like Mario Maker in particular. I've always wanted to make my own Mario levels. When I was a kid, I would take paper and I would just draw levels. And I would think, I'm going to send this to Nintendo, and they're going to make a game for me. That probably ended up in the trash or something, every time. But I'm actually really excited about being able to make my own, not just levels, but like whole courses. And so I'm really looking forward to that. What was that?
I was going to say, I'm really excited for the online aspect of it, too. How if you make a level, you can share it with me or anybody, but there's stipulations. You can't share a level that you yourself cannot beat. That way you can't be that jerk, because someone is just going to make a pit no one can jump past, or a block wall that you can't jump over to get to the flag. So I like the idea they were thinking with that in mind. Before you can submit a level, it has to be completable.
Yeah,
And
I
you
think Nintendo's probably just going to use this as an excuse to never put out another Mario game, though, right?
I mean, I can make my own. That's all that matters, right? I mean,
They would just put out a fucking Zelda maker and a Metroid maker.
hey, that would be great. But then they
Put
lose
out a
their
Mega Man
revenue
game,
stream.
Capcom take a note, and then I can make my own Mega Man game to play it because they're never making.
Well, no, you actually can. I mean, they'll just buy the rights to it or something and give it away like they did to that one Mega Man game.
There you go. Well, so we did get two Zelda announcements, kind of. We got Hyrule Warriors Legends coming to 3DS, which is kind of a rehashing of Hyrule Warriors from the Wii U. Actually,
Right.
as someone who owns a 3DS and not a Wii U, I appreciate that they're doing that, and I will play that game, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, playing a little bit off of the art style of the recent Link Between Worlds, and then also kind of that multiplayer aspect of something like Four Swords Adventures. So that looks really interesting. I like what they said about, in Four Swords it was more competitive multiplayer with four links and trying to see who can get the most rupees, but in this case it's going to be more cooperative and working together to, make a tower to climb up and get things and hit switches and different stuff like that. And then, you'll be able to, like, dress up the different characters in different ways and things to differentiate them a little more than just color. So those look pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
I'll probably go at it for the online feature of it too. That way, I don't have to be sitting in a room like Four Swords with two other people that actually play the game. You could, like me, you, and Clark here could all play together from where we are now. And I like that they included online in something. It seems like they're catching up with the PS2.
Yeah. So Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming out in December. That was probably the
I'm
most.
excited.
Yeah, that was probably the most, like, hardcore gamer, like, fan service, like, interesting game that Nintendo showed, I think.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the original Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii and actually the new 3DS now. Though if you had to pick one copy, I'd say you get the Wii version because you can toggle the language between Japanese or English, whereas the new one just only has the English voices. But yeah, no, it looks very similar to that game. It's basically, kind of, it's a Japanese RPG, but it's not really the traditional kind because it's not as linear. Huge open worlds, you can explore everywhere. It actually has some of those Far Cry. It's almost Far Cry 4-like in that there's way too much to do, and you don't. It may be hard to figure out what you want to do, especially if you want to complete everything. But so that's one issue with that kind of game and with the original Xenoblade Chronicles. But if you really like just exploring worlds and looking at great scenery, it's almost like scenery porn. So yeah, you can just
My
look.
favorite kind.
Okay, that might have been taken the wrong way. That taken in context, it's just great scenery, and you're looking at it, the backgrounds and the vistas and all that other stuff. So, and the battle style, it's not your typical turn-based battle style, but it's not as real-time as other RPGs lately have been going. It's almost like a hybrid in that when you start the battle with an enemy, there's an attack that will just automatically attack periodically every so often, but then there are different other attacks that you can choose, and when you use one, it has a cooldown period before you can use it again, and so the strategy comes in how you, in real time, move your character to position them, and then how you time the attacks that you can choose for the character to use. So it's very interesting, and this game retains that battle style. So that's something I'm kind of excited about.
Nice. So Nintendo announced a few other things that to me just felt like they slapped like Mario and Luigi on it or whatever and felt like what can we put out quickly and have something to announce. I don't know if there's any other things from Nintendo's conference or their Nintendo Direct that you guys felt like we should talk about.
No, not. I mean, from whenever they were having the Nintendo World Championship competition, 2 days before the Direct, that had the only real announcement of theirs that I thought might be worth mentioning, that the original Earthbound, or Mother game that came out in Japan that never came to the US is getting released here and was released here. So that, for Earthbound fans, is a big mention. But that's honestly actually their biggest reveal throughout the whole E3 thing, and it wasn't even at E3.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
So, are there anything from the non-Big Three conferences that interested you? A lot of it were things that were then shown in more detail at either Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony's conference. The only other things really that stand out to me is that Mass Effect Andromeda was announced at the EA conference. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to get next in the Mass Effect universe. Sounds like it's going to take place long after the Commander Shepard trilogy, so that sounds cool. And then a lot of the other announcements and things that were shown were pre-E3 announcements that we just got to see a little more in detail. Anything else interested you guys from the other conferences or sort of post-conference time frame?
Not really too much. I think I've just been thinking a little too much about Final Fantasy VII to really get as interested in any of the other things at the moment.
I was interested in Dishonored 2 at Bethesda.
Oh, Dishonored.
Thought I'd throw that out there. Nobody seemed to have mentioned that. It looked
well. We talked about, we knew it was getting announced, and we talked about it last week, and I talked about how much I actually thought the original Dishonored is underrated, and folks should give that a try. I didn't actually watch the unveiling or whatever they showed of Dishonored 2. Did you see it? Is it good?
It's a big cinematic. There's not any gameplay in it, but the cinematic was interesting enough as it was. It of course involves a whole new character, and kind of something similar has happened to her. And you just really need to go watch it. But it was a very interesting reveal. It got me a little excited.
I guess I'm a little bit excited about the new Warlock subclass for Destiny.
Yeah, we definitely saw a nice Taken King trailer at the E3 conferences. Even as someone who's not a fan of Destiny, the trailer looked admittedly very cool.
As a fan of Destiny, I might as well cover some of this one. So I think I've played enough for all three of us.
That's certainly true.
There was they had a nice reveal trailer. It was pretty cool, but there was this 8-minute vid doc they showed sometime after you could pick up that actually went more into depth about all three new subclasses, the Taken King, and they finally, I guess, they were listening to people and decided to add in more than just Slayer in multiplayer mode, because now we have kind of like they call it their like idea for capture the flag, but it's more like one bomb assault. You go pick up this thing called the Spark, and you got to go basically take it to the enemy base. Then you get killed, they take it back. So it's like neutral bomb almost, from what I can understand. And then there was another game mode titled Mayhem, and I don't know how much Crucible you guys played, but I don't know if you guys felt really annoyed about the powers that each guy had, or if you liked that idea that the Titan could just run into a room, punch the ground, and kill everybody. So they added a mode.
I was a Titan, so I liked that.
You jerk.
You probably didn't like getting hit with a warlock, bomb or whatever. They added a mode called Mayhem, where basically your super and grenade and all your abilities recharge at like 200% or 300%. You basically get it like 30 seconds after you use it if you're killing people, and that's why they call it Mayhem, because it's just nothing but chaos. But I was really interested in the three new classes. As Clark mentioned, the Warlock got a new electrical storm. He basically is like a Sith Lord now. He's just like shooting electricity out of his fingers. It's pretty entertaining. And the Titan, since you played Titan for a brief time there, Josh, he basically has become Thor. He gets this flaming hammer that he can just like launch at people via Thor style. and it looks pretty entertaining, much better than what he's had before. And the hunter kind of got the raw end of the deal. His move doesn't even seem to attack people. It just kind of shoot. He's get a bow and he shoots like 2 or 3 shots. It's a cool support class, but running solo, it's kind of like I wish I was the other two, because it basically anchors down the enemies. Like you shoot an enemy, and every enemy around them gets slowed and kind of dazed, and they get stuck to that one enemy. They can't move very far from him. Or you can shoot the ground, and it does the same effect and anchors them to the ground. So it's like an anchoring effect, not really an attacking effect. But it was really interesting. If you're a Destiny fan, I know you're not very much of one, and Clark's like in between. So it'd probably be more for him to check out that 8-minute vid doc, really get some good information. But it looked like they're really moving the game into more of a game.
So I think we've covered off pretty well on E3, and so it sounds like our game of show then for the World Map podcast is going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. And so who do we feel like won E3? Clark, I'll let you go first.
Oh my gosh. Do I want to say Ubisoft? No.
Well, okay, so out of the big three.
No, I was just joking about that. Certainly they didn't. But I'm going to have to say, for me, it was Sony. It was just game after game after game after game that I'm excited for.
Nick, how about you?
Well, at first I didn't think anybody could beat Microsoft. And even now, if I'm being unbiased, I kind of feel like Microsoft and Sony kind of were about even at this E3. But I'm going to be biased. And when they threw Final Fantasy VII out there, I think Sony tipped it in their favor.
It's just,
okay.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that Microsoft and Sony, very, very close race there. I think if Microsoft did what they needed to do, which was convince a bunch of people that they need to buy an Xbox One who have not yet done it, and I think they've accomplished that by showing Halo 5 is going to be great, Rise of the Tomb Raider is going to be great, and there are more exclusive IP coming to Xbox One. Gears is coming. Rare is actually doing something other than making Avatar costumes. So they did what they had to do, but I think had the Gears 4 demo been more impressive, had Recore shown gameplay the way that Horizon Zero Dawn was able to show gameplay, there are these little slight things that they just didn't do to push them up in the first place slot, and I feel like I'm going to go with you guys, and Sony edged Microsoft out to win E3 this year.
Yep.
All right, well, so we're running a little long with all this E3 news, so we'll skip over most of the other stuff and save it for next week, but I did promise the listeners on Twitter I was going to cover off on Jurassic World this week, so I'll do that quickly. I described Jurassic World basically as the Kingpin leaves Hell's Kitchen, tries to weaponize dinosaurs, and then Star-Lord teams up with the agent who found Osama bin Laden to take him down. And if that doesn't sound cool to you, because you've got what's his name, Vincent D'Onofrio or whatever, who plays Kingpin in the new Daredevil series. He's the engine leader in this one, and you've got Chris Pratt, who's kind of the hero, and you got Jessica Chastain in there as well, who's the heroine. I don't know. You guys haven't seen Jurassic World yet, right?
No, not yet.
I don't know where I can't even really rank it among all of the other 3 Jurassic Park movies. The original, obviously, is still like a classic and just the best one. I never really had a problem with 2 and 3 so much. I thought they were okay. This one, to me, feels less like a 4th movie, like a sequel to those, and feels more like, what can we do to just pay fan service to the people who really like Jurassic Park? Like, what can we do to just put some crazy dinosaur stuff in here and make a film that's interesting to watch? And they did that well. I didn't have any problems with the movie. It's not like one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, but it was entertaining every minute through and through, and some really cool fan service. I won't spoil it because it's still a relatively new movie, but I think the last 30 minutes of the movie is just if you're a Jurassic Park fan, you're gonna just be like, this is pretty awesome. It gets a little Godzilla in places, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. All right, so we should probably wrap it up, and until next week. So thanks everybody for listening. Everybody who's been downloading the podcast and watching live. We had a couple live viewers this week, and our podcast download numbers have been ticking up and up. So thanks to everybody who's subscribing and downloading. Give us some feedback, also questions, comments. If there's something you want us to talk about on the show, you can send that to worldmapcast@gmail.com. You can listen to the show live each week here on the Google Hangout on air. We're usually on air on Sundays around 3 p.m. You can watch the archived live show on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment there. Or if you want to hear the fully produced, edited podcast, you can get it on iTunes or Stitcher. Subscribe and give us a 5-star review there. We appreciate it. Most importantly, tell some friends if you like the show. Just tell somebody else to give us a listen. It really helps us out. It'd be great. And you can find more about the World Map Podcast at worldmapcast.com. We are at World Mapcast on Twitter, and we also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/worldmapcast. Go give us a like and talk to us there. And you can find me online gaming on PS4. I am Thunder_Hokey. On Good Old Games and Steam, I'm Thunderhokey, one word. And on Battle.net, I am James Sorius. Clark, where can the listeners find you online gaming?
They can find me on the PlayStation Network. That's _Clunkster. And on Nintendo Network, Battle.net, and Steam as Clunkster.
And Nick, how about you, sir?
You can find me on the PS4, Battle.net, and Steam as NickManZ666, and the Nintendo Network, just Nickman.
Excellent, awesome. Well, this was a really great action-packed E3 show as we went through and saw all of the competitors duke it out for the winning title. And looks like Sony and Horizon Zero Dawn came out on top. And we'll be back next week talking about more things we're playing, more gaming news, and some other hobbies that we've been taking under our belt that we didn't get a chance to talk about this week. So we'll be back to the normal show format. And until next time, we are poppin' smoke.